fun one is. Okay, so thanks everybody for being here. So there are a lot of people today that think failure is black and white. I think true failure is not learning from your past failures. And when I left college in my early 20s, I felt like that was my biggest failure at the time. I originally went to school for architecture, and I knew I wanted to do architecture from a freshman in high school. I took lots of art classes, I took design classes, and so I went to school in Boston for architecture. And let's face it, I also wanted to be a woman in a male-dominated field, for those of you who know me. And that was my dream, to be an architect. I had a great time. Starting architecture, my first few years of school went okay, and then slowly my classes built up, and I wasn't enjoying architecture so much anymore. One of my classes alone was about 12 hours a week, and we all know from our college experiences, you know, those in-class hours have to translate to a certain amount of out of class, and a 4-class course load is a little overwhelming. In addition to that, based on my genetic disposition and myself personally, that led to a lot of issues with depression and anxiety, which only compounded my workload and my stress. So I felt like I was forcing myself to enjoy this thing that I was supposed to, that this was my dream, this is what I was supposed to do. But really I was just lying to myself. There was a lot about architecture that I did enjoy, but it ended up being more on the level of a hobby than actually enjoying what I was doing. But I did have one really awesome teacher that taught me a lot in school and actually ended up being an English teacher, which maybe should have told me from the start that architecture wasn't what I wanted to do. But she was amazing, and through her class I found some of my favorite quotes, my favorite movies, and specifically, I want to mention my favorite quote because it was one of the things that, you know, helped change my perspective and reframe and change my life. And that quote comes as the last line of the poem, The Archaic Torso of Apollo, which I have on the screen behind me, but now it timed out. But in general, the poem goes through this whole description of Apollo as, you know, the god Apollo, this beautiful sculpture, head to toe, what's describing it. But the last line kind of throws you off guard. It's, you must change your life. And there's lots of interpretations out there, but my interpretation is that the poem writer Rilke was going through describing this wonderful thing that's supposed to be meaningful, that's supposed to be beautiful, and evoke all these emotions, but he just really wasn't finding any meaning in it. And basically ends with, you must change your life. You must do something different. You're trying to bring meaning to something that doesn't bring meaning to you. And so that wasn't the main reason I left school, was that one quote by itself, but to me it was kind of the cherry on top, kind of the eye-opening, like, you know, this isn't working and I've got to do something. And what I also like about that line is that it's not a suggestion, it's not a word of encouragement to change your life, it's a command. You must change your life. You have to do something different. So this first failure I experienced, choosing to leave school, you know, was not taken lightly. But since then, I've taken the time to, you know, recover, gotten a handle on my own mental health, had a lot of success in various things, whether it's work, in my personal life, and I lead a lot to that, to my past failures, learning from those experiences and growing as a person. And that's allowed me to reframe how I see things. And with that comes our fears. So often we think of our biggest fears like bears or heights or different things like that, but I think one of the fears that we mention the least, because it's ubiquitous, is our fear of change. But sometimes you don't have a choice, and sometimes you must change your life.